Om Tat Sat. Now I shall try to answer few questions, and few more questions I will not, for the simple reason they will be answered in their turn. Some of them have been connected with the epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and something connected with the Veda. So I don't want to make the whole thing a disjointed one. I don't want to hop here and there, which may already happen in the course of my rather clumsy presentation. That's why I shall try to avoid it and become more and more focused. So, some questions directly or indirectly connected with yesterday's discussion, they can as well be answered, rather an attempt can be made to answer them. Now, how tradition and religion are interrelated, or what is the difference between them? What's your opinion? Tradition can happen even in non-religious things also. We have a tradition of science, we have a tradition of art, so is tradition of religion. And tradition is nothing but a constraint of time. Time means space has also come into consideration. Generally, many times we confine the meaning of some of the words. Like tradition means we always think in terms of age old. And religion is age old. And very narrow. And very constrained, belief oriented, like that. It need not be. Tradition is a system which has been brought forward since time immemorial. And if there is something very cherished one, very ennobling, then it becomes a heritage. In heritage, we have a greater and positive aspect, and in tradition, it is just coming. We can say parampara and sampradaya. Parampara is tradition and sampradaya is heritage. For the simple reason, some very well, pra, in an exuberant manner, daya, that is brought forward. Something which has been brought forward in an ennobling way, exuberant way, profound manner, a cherished share since time immemorial, that is sampradaya, that's heritage. And that's why we have heritage sites, not traditional sites. Like that we can know. In sampradaya is a very cherished and something which is most valuable in the tradition. And in that sense only Shankara opines in his Gita Bhashya, Sarvashastra vidapi asampradaya vid murkhavadeva upekshaniyaha. A person may be well informed, but if he is not aware of the sampradaya means the core aspects of it. For example, the sampradaya of Indian culture has to be known. For that sake only I am delivering these talks. And yesterday I gave some modules, and today also I will be discussing some more. All these put together, they become the core aspects. And that is something of heritage. And religion, of course, I told. And religion is more connected with belief also, I told. I need not ponder much over that. Then we have, with so many religions, each at different level, upper caste, lower caste, it has created lot of disturbance inside our country, and also has allowed onslaught of the foreigners. Why did someone not prevent it? Something. The sentence is rather vague. Well, no problem. I can as well understand the import of it. Yes, there are many religions, there are many sects, subsects and all. In India at least we have castes, though not classes, and we are turning to a society based on class also. All that is happening. But you just go to the core of it, don't you see that the very nature itself is that division and subdivision is the nature. That is the way of the world. Differentiation is the nature of world. That is the way of creation. Integration is the way of spirit, and differentiation is the way of materialism. What else can happen? If it's not going to happen, then it's a wonder. When one and all will be equal, when one and all will be same, means it's only at the end, that is in pralaya. In pralaya, everything becomes sama. That's what it is said. But one can realize equanimity And that's possible by a sustained spiritual effort, and that may be for one's own self and not to one and all. One person getting liberated will not save the world from the problems. He can solve the problems of the world, of his world, rather. If one gets graduated from a school, it doesn't mean all the students who are going to come and who are there, they will all be graduated then and there. No, it's not so. In that sense, anyway, the human mind itself acts like that. Duality is the nature of mind. Dvandvatmakam manaha. So the definition of mind is given. Proposals and disposals is the nature of mind. We can't think other way. See, without comparing and contradicting, we can't think. To think means I should have myself and the object of thinking, and the process of thinking, they should go on. And that is called Triputi. Manta, Mananiyam, and Mananam. Manta means I am he who is going to analyze. And the thing which is going to be analyzed, that is Mananiyam. And then the process of thinking, that is Mananam. Observer, observed, and observation. Drik, Drishya, Darshana. This Triputi is always there. Only in pure consciousness it will not be. I will be coming to that point later, and so on. So, when that is the crux of the problem, at the superficial level, if we try to solve the things, any attempt will be dubious. But we should not keep quiet. Try to do whatever possible. We know it's something like straightening a dog's tail. Impossibility, but we have to try it. And all the burden of the prophets is that. Then, not just caste, there are so many points which are involved there. Anywhere human mind will have divisions and disparities. Division for convenience will become disparity in sense of superiority and inferiority. I shall discuss all these things later. For today we have that discussion itself. Can you explain the role of democracy in Indian culture? Of course, Indian culture is most democratic because any early culture, essentially having religion, it has an imposition in its inbuilt nature. But Indian culture never had. And that's why even atheism had a beautiful amalgamation here. And we are not people of text, people of one God, or people of a prophet, something like that. And that is the nature of democracy. Plurality is the nature of democracy. Equal opportunity, respect for the individual, understanding the responsibility, these are some of the features of ideal democracy. And much of it is found in Indian tradition. Of course, here and there we find differences. There are, of course. But in spite of all that, Sanatana Dharma is the most nearby equation to ideal democracy. In democracy, we need not have God, religion, and other things. Democracy is product of modernism, and so it may be secular. Secular not in the sense of our politicians I am speaking of. Secular in the sense just materialistic, not spiritual. And that is the nature of democracy. Science and technology, democracy, these are the products of modernity. But including religion, including God, including spirituality, if one system can be democratic, means it is only in Sanatana Dharma. In no other system we can have this much of democracy. And democracy has its own inbuilt problems. The first dictum of democracy, all are equal, has an inbuilt corollary, nobody is superior to me. And that's why we like this dictum. All are equal means I am not inferior to anybody. In that sense, my ego is boosted up. See, when a system can boost our ego very much, how can we get refined? Unless our ego is challenged and we are tempered, we will not go through the mill, and our refinement is not possible, will not be possible. For that reason, democracy has an inbuilt problem. When we stress so much of rights, so much on rights, we are not at all bothered about duties. You just take the Smritis, nowhere we have the mentioning of rights. The duties of mother, duties of father, duties of husband, duties of wife, duties of teacher, duties of student, duties of king, everywhere we have duties. One and all, if they practice their duties properly, none need cry for their rights. So, right is a natural instinct. It is something like kama. It is like desire, lust. It's so natural. Ahara nidra bhayamaithunani. Food, and then lust, and then fear, protection from fear, and then sleep. These are all the most basic instincts of any living being, any animal, and human being is no way different. And in all these cases, we want food is our right, sex is our right, and then protection is our right, like that we say. But what duties we are performing, that's not cared. And an ideal society, ideal setup has to ensure duties also. In that sense, Sanatana Dharma has given a greater emphasis to it. Historians and cultural anthropologists, they speak a lot about the contribution of various cultures. There, they enlist the hallmarks of Greek culture, democracy, and then intellectual pursuit, and then development in arts. These are the three great hallmarks of Greek culture. There also, where and why it fell, it is lacking in duties. There it came. And so in Rome, everywhere we see that when duties are failing, then comes the fall of any culture, any country. In response to a question on nationalism, you favored nationalism as the step forward and for us to go back to our roots to discover the same. What is the implication for our religions like Islam and Christianity by the call to discover nationalism by going back to the roots? Here, the language was metaphoric. I used a metaphoric language, and if you make it in the literary sense, no communication will be possible. Going back to roots means not regression. See, going back to roots means enriching. That's what I meant. This is the way in which we use the language. I can't use my language, spoken language, phonetic language like mathematics. The idiomatic nature of language is the life of it, is the very breath of it. And in that sense, going back to roots is not going backwards or forwards. If people become so critical, I'm very happy for their keen observation, scrupulous observation. But at the same time, what happens to the poetic nature of language? People call me that, this and all. Even my friend generously introduced me yesterday with all bombastic words. But I define myself as an entertainer, basically a poet, well rooted in different arts. But my main way of expression is poetry. And poetry always realms, its realm is in idiomatic language, suggestive language, figurative language. So I'm compelled to keep myself silent. Well, I can understand the spirit of it, of course, because poetry, in spite of all the figurative language, it knows what the total import and implication of it. Nationalism is the only running horse, I told. Yesterday, one more friend of mine also opined, why not world citizenship? At the level of individual, it is possible. I wanted to ponder a few minutes over that also, and naturally, this question is a favorable one. In our tradition, a Brahmana is not a subject coming under the rule of any king. He is answerable only to Soma. That's how in the Vedas it is said, Somo va yesha Brahmananam Raja. Soma is the only king of the Brahmanas, and no king has his authority on Brahmanas. Means they obey. The authority of king is respected, yet they are ultimately answerable to Soma. Who is Soma? Soma generally we say the Soma Jews, and the moon like that, they are at the physical level, adhibhuta level. At the adhyatma level, soma is the elixir of life, that which sustains, the consummate, what we call. Consumer is called Agni, and consummate is called Soma. We become consumers at one level and consummates at some other level. For example, grass is consummate. When we look at goat, sheep, cattle, and other things. At the same time, grass is the consumer with respect to water and manure. And these animals, they become consummate to a non-vegetarian. And that non-vegetarian person becomes consummate to time or to his enemies, something like that. So the consumer and consummate, that is a cycle going on, and that is called Agni Shomiya Vyuha, Agni Shomiya Mandala in the Vedas and in the Upanishads and even in the Yoga Vasishtha. It's a wonderful concept. Because of the paucity of time and because of the wide range of concepts and the informations and the insights which are brought forward by the seers since time immemorial, it is humanly impossible for anybody to cover within 18 hours. So I am restricting myself with great lot of difficulty. In that process, I may be going astray here and there. Something is more fascinating, I will be going there and picking up. Though I have some rigid rule for my own self, it may not work out completely. Yet what I am mesmerized by these things is that Agni Shomiya Vyuha, a Brahmana is answerable to Soma, means the elixir, life-saving elixir, that is Soma. Means one and all should sustain, one and all should be enriched. I am answerable to that. Means if a king is going wrong, I can't obey my king. Brahmana here means a pure intellect, a pure spiritual person, a person who is entirely devoting to spirit and the betterment of the world, not just by the 3 or 6 threads hanging on the left arm, left shoulder. Yajnopavita is not a big thing and not even the birth certificate. For that matter, in the Vedic rituals, Yajnopavita has no mantra at all. None need get shocked. Yajnopavitam Paramam Pavitram is not found in any of the existing Veda Samhitas. It's a Smarta mantra, means found in the Smritis. And even in the early times, it was only Uttariya. That Uttariya became Upavita. So it was only an upper garment. This is not at all a sign of a birth, a caste or some such thing. Well, Brahmana is Brahmajanati Brahmana. And who is Brahmana? Manusmriti says, Kurvannapi nava kurvan maitro Brahmana uchyate. Whatever he does or not, it's immaterial. One should be universal friend. There comes the global citizen. One is friendly to one and all. So, the universal brotherhood and friendly nature, irrespective of the background of any person, any creation, that's the essential feature of Brahmana. And he who pursues Shreyas and not Preyas. Preyas means just that which is endearing. Shreyas means that which is good for one and all, good to one and all. Shreyas means all the world comes under the canopy of one protection. Shreniyatvad Shreya. One and all should welcome that. One and all is blessed to have that shelter and support. Prayers means it's just lovable. I like it. Nowadays we see, I want it, I like it, so I am doing. Not bothered about the implications, not bothered about other things. So self-centeredness is called prayers. And then capital S self-centeredness is called Shreyas. So answerable to one and all, acceptance of everything, and there comes Shreyas. So one is called Brahmana only when he is for Shreyas and not for prayers. To be more specific, Purusharthas, he who respects Purusharthas and follows that path, he is Brahmana and not a person who is the other way. For example, Kama is one among the Purusharthas, but at the same time it is the topmost in the list of Arishad Vargas. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada and Matsarya. How come? When Kama is not tempered by Dharma, then it is the arch enemy, Arishad Varga, the leader. That's why Bhagavad Gita says, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. I am the very embodiment of desire in all the beings if it is not in the way of Dharma, if it is not if it is not an adversary to Dharma. So, Artha also, it becomes Lobha. When Artha is not well tempered by Dharma, it becomes Lobha, one among the Arishad Vargas. So, Artha and Kama, if they are pursued without the sense of Dharma and Moksha, then it becomes preyas. If Artha and Kama are tuned to the divine music of Dharma, then it becomes Shreyas. He who follows that is called Brahmana, and Brahmana is world citizen in all sense, and not many people can be there like that. Only few people can be, because it is the highest ideal. But such models, do these religions, Islam and Christianity, do they have? If they have, well and good. If they don't, it's not. Yesterday I told, are they inclusivists or not? If they are exclusivists, then they are predator religions. They cannot accommodate. And again, we are not the people of book. But Christianity and Islam and even communism, they are all the religions of book. One may be wondered why I am including communism in religion, under the heading of religion. Because it's a religion without God. There, the God is no God, and the prophet is Karl Marx, and the holy book is Das Kapital. Christianity burnt Bruno, trialed Galileo, and many more. Like that, many scientists were tortured in Russia, we know. They are even today not ready to accept Mendel's theory of genetics because they come in the way of their class conflict. So, they follow Marx more than truth. That's the nature of Islam and Christianity. When people say that we belong to the book, but our tradition is one of the wonderful living tradition, rather the only living tradition, which has kept books secondary, in spite of producing crores of books, thousands of sacred books. Because one may wonder, don't we have Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, that's this and all. But the Veda again says, keep it aside. That's why these essential features have to be understood. Then only the rest of Indian culture will be known. If not, when the Pralaya will occur, was Rama reality, was Krishna falsehood, all these stupid questions they arise. One has to go to the crux. If a person is having some skin disease, no amount of snow and talcum powder will solve the problem. He has to go to the roots. Likewise, we have to go to the essentials of Indian culture and look at it. Like that we go. In the Rig Veda, the longest hymn, Alpastava, called Asyavamiya Sukta, in the first mandala, we have one hymn. And that is found in the Yajurveda also. And even in the Samaveda, it is recited. Every person who is initiated into Veda, every day should recite some or the other portion of the Veda. And that whole process is called Brahma Yajna, and it is one among the Panchamaha Yajnas. And at the end of Brahma Yajna, must recited shloka, must recited mantra is from Asyavamiya, one mantra. And that is Rucho Akshare Parame Vyoman Yasmin Deva Dhivishve Nishedu Yastanna Veda Kimricha Karishyati Yayittad Vidustai Me Samasate. The true Veda is in the cosmic space that is within you. And he who is not aware of the Veda within one's own self, what is that he is going to get by reciting the external Veda? He who has raised the internal Veda will naturally be getting the external Veda also. Yastanna Veda, he who is not aware of the technology of going beyond books will have no use with the books. Yayittad vidustai me samasate. Those who know the internal Veda, that is beyond book, all the book knowledge naturally comes over to him. This is the meaning of that mantra. Just think of the beautiful poetic contradiction, seeming contradiction, virodha bhasa alankara, as we say. Book negating its own self. He who knows the internal Veda has to have the external Veda. It will naturally come. And those who don't have any awareness of internal Veda will have no use with the external Veda. And Shankara, in his Chandogya Upanishad Bhashya, commentary on the Upanishad Chandogya, an Upanishad belonging to Samaveda, one of the oldest Upanishads, as the modern scholars say, he is arguing on one issue. Then he puts a question in the mouth of the opponent. When you go on with such an argument, don't you end up in a situation where you may have to negate the Veda? Then Shankara says, I am quoting his own words, Tadishyata eva asmabhihi yat swayam shrutiraha atra veda avedaha iti. Yes, that's what we do like. Even the Veda says, atra veda avedaha. He is quoting from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, belonging to Shukla Yajurveda. The Janaka Yajnavalkya Samvada, wonderful portion. In that cosmic realization, no Veda will be Veda, no Brahmana will be Brahmana, no Shudra will be Shudra, atra na tatra Brahmano, Brahmana na tatra Polkaso, Polkasaha. Nobody is nobody, everybody is that absolute one. And to that extent, one has to grow. So, our texts themselves are negating it. Buddha says the same thing. So, we are not people of book. We bother more about the reality than the pictured reality in the books. In Kannada, we have a proverb, Panchanga Sutre Nakshatra Hogutta. If all the calendars are burnt, do the stars vanish away? No. Likewise, book. Shankara, again quoting from his Brihadaranyaka Bhashya, says, Shastram kevalam jnapakam natu karakam iti sthitihi. Book is only a memory peg. It will not create anything of its own. It's a memory peg, that's all. Yes, we have to respect. You see, here we should be very, very careful. We have to respect and at the same time know this much only it can give. I beautifully remember the lines of Cordelia from Shakespeare's King Lear. Lear asks his daughters, how much you love me? The two, they are hypocrites, they say in some way. But Cordelia very honestly says, to what extent I can love my father, to that extent alone. I'll be having my family, husband, children and all. How can I love you the most? I cannot. So that much alone I can respect. We have to respect, but that much. So this way of agreeing with disagreement, and that is again bringing back the yesterday's discussion to your memory, it is dynamic equilibrium. This healthy seeming contradiction is the hallmark of Indian culture, and this has to be borne in mind, because generally we have one tendency to settle everything. Nothing can be settled. It's dynamic equilibrium. It has to go along. Can we settle our blood? We die. Can we settle our skin? We rot. We cannot do that. Blood has to change. The cells will die and there'll be new cells will be born. Within every 3 months, fresh blood will be in our body. So is within 7 days, the skin, it falls out and the new skin is developed and it's going on. Everywhere we see that. Is it not the same tree? Is it not the same body? But is it the same? It's indescribable. The indescribability of nature has to be understood. And here, the pratitya samutpada, what Buddha said, paticca samappada in Pali, and the anirvachaniyata, indescribability of Vedanta are one and the same. That's why, while adopting the values of Sanatana Dharma, nationalism will have a real momentum for advancement. It's true in that sense, and I think this is not given in Islam or Christianity. If I am wrong, I am very happy. Unfortunately, I am right. Because they are the religions of the text. And that's why you see, why Max Muller wanted to translate the Vedas. It's a big hoax. It's a very big conspiracy. All you know, I think. You have to read the book of Politics of History by N.S. Rajaram, David Frawley, Shrikant Talageri, and then Conrad Yelst, like that. Many great scholars have written wonderful research works on these things because they wanted to study and all, but the hidden agenda is to establish the supremacy of Christianity and British empowerment, while they wanted to question our texts because they thought, even today they think. Very recent example is one book written by a Telugu convert, a Brahmin converted to Christianity, and Suryanarayan Rao, Paravastu Suryanarayan Rao or somebody, he wrote Satyadarshini, a book, and Somashekar Commission and all, that was carrying out the enquiry. And I was also asked to come as an expert and review that book. We challenged that person to come here, or I was ready to go to Hyderabad also, and I was ready to talk to him in Sanskrit or Telugu or English or whatever language he knew, but he was not ready. He was absconding. He never came to Bangalore and never wanted us to go there, and I don't know what happened to that. There, he again saying, in the Vedas, Christianity is told, in the Vedas, Christ is referred, like that. Christ is referred to in the Vedas, Chatvari Shringas, Trayosya Dadveshir, Shesaptahasta, so like that, a wonderful mantra on Agni. It is referring to Christ on the cross, crucifying cross, like that. All stupid interpretations. All such things. So much of falsehood. Stupid. No erudition at all. Not even seeming erudition. Why I am saying, even today, before 300 years, when Roman Brahmin nobili started in Channapuri, that is the modern Chennai, he did the same thing. And since 3 centuries that's going on, why they haven't understood that Sanatana Dharma is transtextual. It's beyond text. It is metatextual. They haven't. They think that. That's why they are so scared of questioning Bible. If Bible is questioned, the whole edifice of Christianity will fall. If Quran is questioned, the whole edifice of Islam will fall, wither out, like the castle built of cards. That's why they are so sensitive and so protective in that sense. But we are not, because we know nothing will happen to Sanatana Dharma if all the Vedas are burnt. And that should not become an indication of our lethargy and naive attitude. What I am saying, we rely more on experience. Verily rational, verily scientific, truly spiritual in nature, but they are more of after revelations. Yesterday I was very caustic regarding Yogi Pratyaksha, mysticism. This is the reason behind that. Mysticism always, the meaning itself shows mist, gloomy, smoky, unclear, like that we have. In the mist, how much we can see? The vague nature of it. So the textual interpretations, many times, all revelations, all visions are illusions. Yesterday I quoted Ramana also. They lead to these things. There, the individual's experience may be enforced on the others, but in the realization it is not so. Realization means the others should also feel. That's why he told regarding religion, religion is belief. And what is belief? Acceptance even before experiencing. See, most of you may believe in God. Have you seen your gods as he or she is described in the text? I'm sure none. If you say, nobody will believe also. Is it not? If somebody says, I have seen God, unless some self-styled godmen or godwomen in front of their followers, they may gain an upper hand. But the rest, naturally, they just think of some asylum. So, belief is that. Acceptance even before experiencing. It's not wrong. But why we accept? For validation. Anyhow, we have to end up in validation. We have to end up in experiencing and validating that. So here is the problem with all the revelations. But Sanatana Dharma is not. Not knowing this core essential feature of Sanatana Dharma, even today Christianity is hell-bent upon tampering the Indian text. Whether it is Windy Daniger or Meera or somebody, so many people are doing the same thing. The same way of misinterpreting the text, trying to derail the textual tradition so that Sanatana Dharma will be kept in doldrums. But it will never happen. For one thing, we are too lazy and we have no self-respect. That is one thing. The other thing is we are too enlightened. Unfortunately, that populace is very, very less. Well, so when the textual traditions are not the absolute, when we are not the people of book, democracy is that. Democracy is not standing on constitution. It is standing on unwritten constitution. Even today, England has no written constitution. That's the unwritten constitution. And that's the mother of all democracies, modern democracies, it is said so. And ancient Greeks never had any written constitution, whether in Athens or whether in Sparta and all. In the Upanishads it is said, Atha edite karma vichikitsa va vritta vichikitsa va syate tatra brahmana sammarshina yukta yukta luksha dharma kamasyu yatha tatra varteran tatha tatra vartetaha. Taittiriya. If one has confusion regarding conduct, theory, practice, something, you need not go to the text and look at it. You need not go to the book and turn the pages. You go to people who practice. And how they should be. Alukshaha. They should be soft, sweet, modest and welcoming dharma kamaha, who love conduct, who love the global ethic. And how they practice, how they behave, so should be yours. And that's why as long as we don't learn the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata from books, Sanatana Dharma is a living tradition. When once we have to go to book and book alone and university and some research center to know the story of Ramayana, then comes the end of Sanatana Dharma. That has come to Greece. When I had gone to Greece before 6 months, nowhere I could find. I had studied a lot about such situation in Greece. Long ago it happened because of Christianity. But I felt it. Here anywhere we have Homer being read and any Greek music, nowhere. But even today you turn to the city engagement columns in any newspaper of any city of India, you'll be having at least in 5 to 10 places some recitation of Ramayana, some lecture on Ramayana, something and some other thing going on Mahabharata and all. And most of us, we have picked up Ramayana and Mahabharata without even looking at the books. This is the nature of living tradition. And this living tradition is important. And living tradition can happen only when it validates experience. And so, democracy, that's the product of modernity. And nationalism, yet another product of modernity. They have more common features in Sanatana Dharma than in Islam and Christianity. Of course, even the angularities of democracy can be pruned well if they go to Sanatana Dharma and try to understand it properly. Then the last question. Do you think following Dharma has made the Indian psyche weaker? Isn't this the reason why the Indian civilization lost for its invaders? Of course, the wrong understanding of Dharma naturally makes even a person like Gandhi made that blunder, means who else is saved? So many people, even Dharmaraja, who was in the times of Krishna, was of the same kind. The timber of Dharmaraja, Bhishma, Gandhi are all one and the same. Tadidam dyutam aradham. Krishna says, at the time of Duryodhana emerging from the Vaishampayana lake, Dharmaraja very generously said, you choose anyone among the five with any of the weapon of your choice and fight. If you win, yours is the empire. Then Krishna scolds him left and right. Oh, idiot, you are again started playing dice here. Tadidam dyutam arabdham yatha purvam. Means it is not dharma. Again I am saying, dharma is not goodness without spine, goodness without might. Dharma is the combination of so many seemingly contradicting values. Dharma is a balance, dharma is a synthesis. In synthesis, you will be having so many diverging, converging, contradicting features, but they come together. See, hydrogen is a combustible gas, and oxygen is the promoter of combustion, and the combination water neither combustible nor promoter of combustion. This is synthesis. Sodium is a burning metal, chlorine is a pungent gas. When they are combined with sodium chloride, neither pungent nor burning, and it is the taste of blood and sweat and tears. We need tears, not for us, for others. Not for us, for others. We need blood. We have to shed our blood and even our enemy's blood at times. And we have to sweat and sweat out. So that is sodium chloride. So that will happen. For these reasons, I think understanding dharma means it is the way of Bhagavad Gita, Karma Yoga. Clearly knew this is what going to happen. This is what I am going to do. This way of conviction and well rooted in strength and righteousness. That's why Brahma Kshatriya combination, I am again saying that is very, very important. Yesterday I quoted from Shukla Yajurveda also, Yatra Brahmacha Kshatrancha Sanyanchau Savratau. Intactness of Brahma and Kshatriya is very, very important. Yes, since many years, in the recent days, many times, a turmoil is going on in me. Why we lost for our invaders? Is it our goodness? Yesterday I told, culture is the hallmark of respect for feminine quality. And feminine quality is not physically so strong. Yes, it is strong in some other sense. It is a soft power that is needed for the society. The world is waiting for soft power. But unfortunately, the brutal powers, the brutal, rude, masculine power, many times, it dominates. That's happening. And in that sense, the development, in the process of development, developing values, we are prone to become weaker, physically weaker. But we should not. For that, repeated examination and steadfastness is important, is inevitable rather. In that sense, I think we know our rules and regulations, our war rules, they are so generous and kind. A.L. Bhasham, I feel like quoting him from the book, but it may take too much of time. Yesterday itself I wanted to read out some of the passages from A.L. Bhasham's The Wonder That Was India, but I could not. Anyhow, the import is very important. He says, when compared to other martial rules and other rules in war, the rule of Manu and other people, those who codified law and ethics in India, they are more generous and more magnanimous, he says. In Manusmriti, in Yajnavalkya Smriti, in Kautilya's Arthashastra, so beautifully it is said, a king should become Dharma Vijayi, not Lobha Vijayi and Asura Vijayi. There are three types of kings. A king just conquering the other territory to establish order, not anything else, and respecting the local traditions, and then giving back the empire to him, and only an authority for better order. That way is called Dharma Vijayi. And he who wants to exploit economically a country which he is going to conquer, he is called Lobha Vijayi. And he who destroys the people there and then massacres the good and the traditionalists there, and even wipes off the culture there, and tries to implant his, and tries to exploit the women there, and also, of course, money. All these wretched things when a person is going to do, and such a king is called Asura Vijayi. Kalidasa's Raghuvamsha speaks about that Sadharma Vijayi Raja in the 4th canto of Raghuvamsha, and a commentary written by Vallabhadeva on that, he clearly mentions again all these things. And even Kautilya says, if a king conquers a territory, of a new territory, he has to see to it that the traditions, the religion, the practices which are all earlier established in the land, and the people who are following, they should be well protected, and he should not enforce any of his religious biases there. And even Yagyavalkya Smriti says so. And even the commentaries on that. Such things are unheard and unseen in Islam or Christianity and even in communism. And this only made us lose. Is it not good? These virtues, are they not good? But if these cards are played in front of the people who are not ready to accept the basic rules, then what is the use? I am playing football, but he is using hands also. How to win? If I make a goal, he says, this is mine. No, it is in the other side. No, sometimes it will be there and sometimes it will be here. Like that if he stares at us, then what to do? This is the problem. That is why Mahabharata says, Maya vinantu rajanam mayaiva dekrantatu. Krishna clearly says, when Duryodhana was taken to task, I was quoting the earlier instance, after that, fortunately Duryodhana chose Bhima and Gada, the mace, and the combatment and dual combat. Then Krishna says, Mayavi mayaya vadhyaha, shatam prati shathyam acharet. A wicked has to be killed in the wicked manner. When once we know he is wicked, there it ends. In our tradition, we have a word called Atatayi. Atatayi means terrorist of the first order, most brutal person. Who is an Atatayi? Manusmriti gives the description. He who wants to kill innocent people by using either fire or poison or weapon, or tries to snatch away their land, that is immobile property, and then the mobile property, wealth, and also their women, wants to ravish their women. When a person is going to do any one of these 6 things, then he is called Atatayi. Atatayinam abhihanyat gurum va brahmanam tata. If one person is an Atatayi, he may be our father or master or a holy person, an intellectual of the highest order, Brahmana. One should not keep quiet. Avicharaya hanyat avicharaya. Without a second thought, he has to be killed, because it is not war, it is punishment. So it is a judgment given. And punishment means he shall be hanged till death, or should be thrown into gas chamber, or given electric shock and killed, whatever like that. So Duryodhana made an all-time record by doing all these 6 things. He wanted to kill Pandavas by using fire in the house of Lak, and wanted to poison and did it to Bhima in Pramanakota, and threw Bhima into the deeps of Ganga also, and also wanted to kill Pandavas by using weapons. We know that too well. And then snatched away their Indraprastha, their right share, though very humble one, and then snatched away all their wealth, mobile property, and wanted to ravish Draupadi in front of one and all in the court. And having done all these 6, Dharmaraja, should he give even more choices? How stupid it is. So Krishna clearly said, Atatayinam abhiyanyat shatam prati shathyam acharet mayavi mayaya vadhyaha. This is also dharma. That's why Manusmriti clearly says, Parityajed arthakamo yosyatam dharma varjitau dharmanchapyasuko dharkam loka vikrishtamevacha. If arthakamas are in the way of dharma, one has to keep them aside. The artha and kama, the material pursuits of amassing and enjoying at the cost of dharma, should be avoided. Likewise, dharmancha pesuko dharkam. If dharma is not giving any amount of happiness, not an iota of happiness, and if it is not of that times, Asukhodarkam, loka vikrishtam, and if it is not tenable to the age, then we have to cast off that also. This is the beautiful statement of Manusmriti. And even Gautama Dharma Sutra says, Anayasa, one of the virtues among the 8 Atmagunas, says, Anayasa is yadarambhe bhavet pida nityam atyantam atmanaha tadvarjayat dharmemapi sonayasa prakirtitaha. Even though a thing may be good, but starting from its inception, if it is too difficult for us to follow, and it is too tiring on our part, leave it off. That is a virtue by itself. That is Atmaguna. Means people say, coffee and tea is not good, but without that I can't live. It creates a lot of withdrawal syndrome. What to do? Well, hang on with that. They say, early morning one has to take bath in cold water, but I can't, I have the problem of bronchitis, something like that. A person says, no, don't go for that. Likewise, that is anayasa. Why I am saying, people think that dharma means a naive attitude, helpless attitude. Always you just think, Sattvika means what? Useless, soft, meek, and powerless thing. Our Tumba Sattvikru, he is very Sattvik. Means what? Harmless creature. That is Sattvik food, no taste. Sattvika is not that. Sattvika means full of enrichment, full of sustenance, full of life. There is so much of misnomer regarding our tradition. Our culture was never like this. See, we see so much of enjoyment and exuberance. I may be going out of focus in this discussion, yet I am tempted to say something. For example, recently we had, before 3 or 4 years, a big hue and cry regarding Valentine's Day. No, we should not practice Valentine's Day like that. Lovers' Day, we should not like that. Well, okay, our tradition is not like that. Well, what is your tradition? You have to supplement something for Valentine's Day. See, if you are not going to supplement anything, in vacuum nothing grows. But world is not a vacuum. I always take my backyard as an example. When my father was living, there was a beautiful kitchen garden in the backyard. After his demise, I could not manage, and I thought, we shall chop off all the plants and the space shall be free to utilization, it shall be empty. But after a few months, I saw so many weeds and so many thorny bushes. They don't need any nurturing, no caring, nothing. They develop by themselves. So I had to realize, I came back to my father's view, once again cleared, and then planted some saplings, some flowering bushes, creepers and trees, and now it's going on somehow. Means we can't cleanse the thing and keep it clear. We have to plant something. A known devil is better than an unknown angel. So we shall be free of religion. We shall be free of rituals. We shall be free of practices. Nothing can do. Saluting a flag is a religion. Is it not a ritual? Parade of a soldier, is it not so artificial? What's fun in saluting, bowing down her head in front of a piece of cloth having some colors? And painting our heads and cheeks with some colors and then rushing on the roads and then screaming? Is it not funny? Like that, anything, any practice can be questioned and anything can be made a laughing stock of itself. So we need certain things. In that sense, when we know, we have to have something for practice, and that's so the Valentine's Day has to be given some counterpart, some more meaningful and more jubilant, more enjoyable, more exciting counterparts are there in India. The Madanotsava, the Lovers' Festival, that is Kaman Habba of Kannada, the Holi of North India, Holaka, what we say. Is it not more colorful than that? In ancient India, it used to go on for 1 month. Like that, we have to supplement something. But what has happened? The advocates of Indian culture are spineless saints. Or they should be called Sadabhasa. They are saints in appearance. Indian culture is not of sannyasins, is not of bachelors. It is of householders. I am quoting Manu and Kalidasa. They say a family man is the center of Indian culture. Sarvashrama Rakshanakshama Ashrama, Kalidasa says. Like that, we have to have that in our mind. And Dharma has not made. We have misunderstood Dharma. And one main reason is, of course, as we become too sensitive, it happens. Arjuna became too sensitive. And so Krishna needed Bhagavad Gita to preach him. He was always wondering. You see, we can't make a soldier very, very sensitive to such emotions. Should be rude, brutal. It needs that. A sword should be a sword. It cannot be a flower. The purposes are different. Accordingly, we have to understand. And this implication of dharma is very, very important. Dharma arises from the same cause, ends up in the same purpose, but the process of application will be very, very different. To give an analogy, hunger is common to one and all. And after partaking with food, the amount of satisfaction and the aha feel one gets is same. But the process of quenching the hunger is different. Different to different species, different people of different ages, different social situations and all. A child's food and a soldier's food, an Indian's food and an American food. Nowadays, because of McDonald's and others, it's all becoming one and the same, stale one. But there are differences. The food of a horse is different from that of a lion. All these are different. By this difference, one cannot say it is disparity. Difference for integrity, difference for oneness. That is there in dharma. Karana is same, parinama is same, but the vinyoga is different. The prakriya, the process of executing that will be different. We should not take that for disparity. This was missed. They wanted to make one and all equal. The pseudo equanimity has spoiled. And of course, we have many reasons also, and yet we know Islam and Christianity, it invaded the whole world, not to speak of communism. But Islam entered Middle East. It has its birth in Middle East, and no ancient traditions are living. Zarathustra's followers are nowhere. They are now in India alone. All that Persian Empire, Akkadian, Assyrian, Babylonian empires are all lost. Not to speak of Egyptian civilization. And Christianity, it went to South America, it went to South Africa, and whole of Europe and to Australia. One need not mention how barbaric its onslaught was. One has to read the papal bulls, then they will be knowing how brutal was Christianity. And even today it is so in its all decent facelifting a device. So, when they entered, they became predators. That's why I am again and again using that word. All the earlier memories were wiped off. It's all the product of museum. If you want to study a culture, we have to go to museums and libraries, means the culture is not living. Just go to streets, you find Indian culture. Just go to next, the Ganesha temple here, or the Basavana temple there, or else the Karanji Anjaneya temple there. Everywhere we see so much of Indian culture. Just go to Gandhi Bazaar. Today is Krishna Janmashtami. You see so much of jubilance and so much of life. You go to Mumbai, a city like Mumbai, the economic capital of India. Alare Govinda, that Dahi Handi starts. That is living culture. We are not going to depend on documentaries or libraries or archives. We are feeling that through our senses. And this is not found in those places now. But in spite of Islamic, Christian, communistic onslaught for thousands of years, we are still strong. we are still maximum in population. Is it not a great achievement by itself?